Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
We try to be as accurate as we can here at Infowars. Sometimes we make a mistake, and when we do, we want to try to correct that. I reported this last week, and I think we've reported on our website, about the accusations that Russia has shot up, I think, between 7 and 9 hospitals. I call that into question now. Let me give you an example of how this is broken down. Let's take a look at exactly what we've learned and the sources of that information, which we should have done earlier. For example, the Daily Beast has a headline, Russia bombs hospitals and the lefties shrug. Now, their narrative is that the global left has vocally condemned the U.S. bombing of a hospital in Kunduz, but Russian bombing of hospitals in Syria, not a chance. And then they talk about this bombing of the hospital in Afghanistan. They say on October 3rd, a U.S. gunship fired on a hospital run by Doctors Without Borders. Well, it was a lot more than just fired on a hospital. This was an attack on a hospital that the U.S. as well as Afghanistan government had known about. They had been notified multiple times about the exact coordinate locations. This is an attack that went on for 30 minutes, a prolonged attack. And they were notifying, as this attack was going on, the American government as well as the Afghan government. Still, it did not get called off. This is why everyone is so concerned about it. Not only that, but the American government changed their story 4 times in 4 days, finally admitting that they did it, but no apology. Then they visited the site to investigate and destroyed evidence. That's why people are so concerned about this. And when we look at what's going on in Syria, maybe it's not a case of them actually hitting these hospitals. It may be a case of the American propaganda machine pushing back in Syria to excuse what they did in Afghanistan. Again, going back to this Daily Beast article, they say there's a gruesomely perfect example of this hypocrisy that has been visible this month on the left relating to the U.S. war crime in Kunduz. They say that the Russian forces have carried out no less than 4 confirmed attacks on medical facilities and deliberately targeted ambulances. The reaction of the left to Kunduz is one of near apoplectic outrage, but among none of the major organizations or individuals on the left will you find even a codicial acknowledgement of the continued attacks by Russia on medical facilities in Syria. Now, the Daily Beast self-identifies itself as a lefty, but I think what they have become is an apologist for the American military-industrial complex. Remember this article from last week, the Daily Beast. She kills people from 7,800 miles away. Her name is Sparkle. She operates a drone, and she is sick of whiny boys. And she's perfectly okay with dealing out death. And you know what? So is the Daily Beast. And it was interesting that that article came up just a couple of days after The Intercept had run their very long article showing what was going on with the drone war, releasing documents that had been classified and showing the details of how this worked. That was a pushback at the time against the revelations of the drug war. And you know, it is not okay, in spite of what the Daily Beast does with this article, they talk about this woman, how she gets up in the morning, she's got a dog that is a Shar-Pei. They talk about her daily routine. It's kind of an NPR type of article. And they have this inset here. You want to date a guy and they just do jobs that seem menial, she said. They gripe, they bitch, they complain about the most trivial things. Most of them are still wrapped up in their idea of masculinity. Yeah, you see, feminist macho makes assassination and murder of innocent people from 7,800 miles away. That makes that all okay, according to the Daily Beast. So they write this puff piece glorifying this female murderer that works for the American government. And I find it interesting that they push back so hard against this situation in Kunduz at the same time. Now, today, the Russian government has come out and said, no, this didn't happen in Moscow. Moscow has demanded a U.S.-led coalition in Syria to prove or deny allegations that Russia is bombing civilians. Russian Ministry of Defense summoned military attachés from NATO countries and Saudi Arabia and the United States on Tuesday, asking the officials to clarify their country's allegations that Russian airstrikes in Syria have hit civilian targets. They say, today we invited military attachés from the U.S., Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the NATO bloc to ask them to give official validation to their statements or to make a rebuttal. Very interesting, because when I continued to look at this, I saw in the Telegraph talking about, and here's the headlines from the Telegraph article, Syria's doctors are utterly abandoned after Russian airstrikes hit hospitals. Third paragraph down, they say, when the regime strikes, we hear planes and we know what is coming, said Dr. Mohammed Tanari, the hospital's director. This time, however, there was nothing, just silence, then an explosion. That's interesting. Why didn't they hear any airplanes? Well, the explanation that they come up with was it must be Russia sending in guided missiles. Or maybe it wasn't that at all. And so Russia is calling their bluff. But Tony Cartalucci at Global Research, I think, really nailed it down. And he pointed out that in any war, there's always going to be collateral damage. That's why you want to make sure that you have a justification for going to war in the first place. And of course, why everybody is concerned about what happened in Kunduz is that it wasn't simply collateral damage. It wasn't an errant bomb or an errant missile. This was an attack that continued for 30 minutes. It made it a deliberate war crime. But he goes on to point out that when we are seeing notifications of what's going on and the reports of what's going on in Syria, he says, for example, the so-called Syrian Observatory for Human Rights is actually a single individual named Rami Abdel Rahman. He says he's admittedly sympathetic to those seeking the division and destruction of Syria. Rami Abdel Rahman is also based in the UK. So he's not actually observing anything in Syria. He himself has been observed coordinating his activities with the Foreign Commonwealth Office in London. And he continues to go on casting doubt about the actual narrative of what's going on. I think we have to keep our minds open to this, but it clearly looks like this may be a propaganda campaign to excuse what happened in Kunduz.
This is a protest, and this is a riot. If you can't tell the difference, then you are part of the problem. Infowars.com.
I have a dream.
Break down why you're so proud of these filters.
Well, I mean, the Alexa Pure is really a culmination of all of my experience. It was posed to me as an extremely challenging project. They wanted a product that would actually operate without any electricity, so it had no pressure. You had to do it all by gravity. And they really effectively said, we need everything imaginable to be removed efficiently, way higher than 99%. And so the result was, it's an extreme challenge. Worked on it for quite a long time. And basically what we've done is we've created the only filter, to my knowledge, that hits all three. It will remove effectively all the major metals, all the major non-metals such as fluoride. It will take out all known microbiological threats, including viral, bacterial, and cyst. And it will take out organic chemicals, pretty much everything, without exception. It's a very, very powerful device. I don't believe that there's anything else out there in the world that can do that, especially under gravity flow conditions. The fit and finish are fantastic. No compromise was made on the quality of the construction. So, I mean, it's really a remarkable achievement on their part, and I feel very proud, actually, to be part of the team that put that together.
What's your view overall on fluoride?
Well, okay, so we actually tested against both the fluoride ion and the fluorosilicate that you mentioned, which is the additive that people put into water under federal control. And basically, we removed both of them with equal efficiency. So we wanted to be sure that no matter how fluoride is added to the water, it can be intercepted and removed. So that's how we've dealt with that. All I can tell you is that we tested against all known fluoride chemicals that are added to water, the new ones and the old ones, and we removed them all of equal efficiency.
And it's your belief that this is the best gravity-fed filter of the design out there available to the public?
Without a doubt. I mean, most of these gravity flow filters are at best simple particulate filters. They remove dirt and debris, sediment. They're not going to be capable of intercepting a viral particle to the degree we're talking quantitative reduction below detection. No one can touch that kind of capability.
Well, I'm impressed, and I want to thank you so much for your time today. It is the Alexa Pure Pro family of water filtration systems available, discounted exclusively at InfoWarsStore.com. I want to thank Mr. Red Hawk for allowing us to be part of the launch of this. It's on sale right now for their main unit, $177. Leading competitors that aren't even as good are more than that. And they've also got the survival spring type straw system for survival that is an absolute must-have.